How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Runaway Train Sports Podcast. I am your host, Boiler in Texas, on most social media platforms and here on YouTube if you're catching it on YouTube. And if you're not, head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We upload these a couple times a week. Right now it's pre and post football games, but now that basketball season is just around the corner, we'll be ramping it up even more with that as well. We're here to talk about Purdue's match against the Nebraska Cornhuskers in Lincoln, Nebraska. We'll also touch on some of the other stuff that has gone on over the weekend. Obviously, I did not upload a pre-weekend predictions, weekend preview or anything like that, but we are here to talk about what went on here against Nebraska, as well as take a look around the Big Ten football results as well. And then we'll wrap things up with a bit of basketball talk. As Purdue played Arkansas in a charity exhibition, and Purdue women's basketball played their exhibition game today as well. Well, we'll go ahead, touch on those briefly, but let's go ahead. We'll kick things off with Purdue's game against Nebraska. And so before we actually do get into the meat and potatoes of this, I will mention I am still recovering from shingles. And so my speaking stamina is not going to be as much as it normally is. So this might be a relatively shorter episode. Not that we really want to talk about the football game too much anyway, but if this one is relatively short, now you know why. Purdue went to Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers in a football. Purdue walks out with a 14-31 loss to the Cornhuskers, and I really don't think it was particularly close, all things considered. Purdue really struggled in this one, basically in all facets, except for defense. Purdue's defense absolutely came to play in this one. The offense just could not get anything going, at all. And unfortunately, it's just the way it goes sometimes. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats briefly. We'll start with Nebraska. Nebraska in the passing game, Heinrich Haarberg, Nebraska's quarterback, went 6 of 11 for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. In a very efficient day. Not that he needed to do too much here. In the receiving game, Emmett Johnson led the way, receiving. I said rushing. Trust me, I said rushing. 13 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Haarberg also had 19 carries for 22 yards himself, so it was nice to see him kind of held in check. I was kind of worried about it when he initially started playing after Jeff Sims, and he seemed to have the legs to kind of put some stuff on the ground, so it was nice to see him kind of held in check. Nebraska actually had, 9 people record carries for this in this game, 48 attempts for 155 yards and a touchdown. So all things considered, a 3.2 yard average actually isn't too bad. In a game Purdue lost by 17. So definitely not the worst result we ever could have had. They only ran for 155 as a team with a team high 76 from Johnson. In the receiving game, they had 6 total receptions for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Jalen Lloyd, 1 reception, 73 yards and a touchdown is definitely not what you want to see. And then Thomas Fidone, the second, one reception for 1 yard and a touchdown as well, seals out their 2 touchdowns through the air. In this one, Nebraska had 5 fumbles and lost 4 of them. Purdue just could not, convert anything. They had 2 interceptions as a team. Other than that, not really a whole lot going on. We'll go through Purdue's briefly, but it's really unimpressive, and we really don't need to spend time on it. Hudson Card really struggled in this one. You can tell he's just lost the confidence in this offensive line. He seems to be feeling like he has to scramble to make a play almost every time he has the ball. 16 of 32, obviously going precisely 50% for 100 yards. Not the way you want to do it. 1 touchdown to Jackson Veal and 2 interceptions. We also did see a brief stint from Bennett Meredith, who promptly went 1 for 1 for -1 yards. So not the most productive thing from him. So Purdue actually ends up with less than 100 yards passing in this one. On the ground as a team, 29 carries for 96 yards. Technically had a higher average of 3.3 to Nebraska's 3.2. So silver linings where they exist. Through the air, when you only have 99 receiving yards as a team, really is not a whole lot going on there. Jaden Dixon-Veal leads the way, 4 receptions, 38 yards, and a touchdown. A very nice play, a diving touchdown from Hudson Card. So very productive day from him. Other than that, there's really not much else to really talk about. Purdue had 2 fumbles. In this one, Devin Mockabee pretty early, and Hudson Card there later. The Devin Mockabee one definitely hurt. It was just a time where Purdue was still technically in the game. I think it just kind of broke their back, and that was kind of it. On defense, Dylan Dieneman had an absolute day. 12 tackles, 7 solo, a tackle for loss. Absolutely lovely stuff from Dylan Dieneman. Nick Scourton and Kydron Jenkins. What a day for Kydron Jenkins, by the way. The dude was... I don't even know how to properly express the type of day that man had, but all I'm gonna say is that it's a big shame that he's, obviously he's a senior in his last year of eligibility. It's a shame that we couldn't hold on to him for one more year and give him an offense that could reward him for the type of play that he's putting on right now. So absolutely a monstrous day from Jenkins, and hopefully he can kind of keep competing at that level, because Purdue's going to need him to at this point with the type of offense that we're putting out there. I mean, other than that, not really a whole lot going on, if we're being honest. Not a whole lot to write home about. Let's see, what else? We had Ben Freehill back. Unfortunately, he went over 1 on field goals because it was blocked and returned for a touchdown. I'm already just wrapping things up here. What does this mean for Purdue in the long run? Purdue is extremely banged up in all the positions that matter the most. Hudson Card has lost the confidence of the offensive line. The receivers are no longer getting open because we just know that each team is going to take advantage of a beat-up offensive line and just be able to drop more into coverage. It is what it is at this point. At this point, Purdue's playing to get better, get reps. Hopefully, we'll see some positive momentum. But right now, Purdue's 2-6, 1-4 in the conference, and just that looks like they have no momentum whatsoever. So everyone knows a trip to Ann Arbor next weekend is exactly what the doctor ordered. Purdue will have that to look forward to next weekend. We'll cover that in a preview episode here in a few days. But all right, I'm done talking about Nebraska. Let's take a look around the Big Ten, see what else happened over the weekend. Ohio State and Wisconsin played. Ohio State walked out of Madison with a 24-10 win, and a very good game, actually. Wisconsin hung around for a little bit there in the first half and into the third quarter, but Ohio State just was too much too often, and it walks out with a 2-touchdown win. Indiana went to Penn State, absolutely hid with a tail between their own legs. Penn State absolutely sleepwalking in this one. Indiana actually had the lead for a little bit here before going into halftime down 17-14. And then Indiana had an opportunity to potentially go with a go-ahead touchdown. Tom Allen ran it up the middle of the line 3 straight times to kick a field goal for a tie. Penn State promptly went down the field and scored relatively easily. And then we got the most hilarious safety I think I've ever seen, basically on Indiana's first play of their next possession, and Indiana falls 33-24 in Happy Valley. Maryland went to Northwestern and lost 33-27. This one I think might have been one of the more surprising results of the weekend. September Maryland is gone, folks. I don't know what to tell you. It's time to start talking to your parents about October and November Maryland. So Maryland has been trying to get into bowl eligibility for the last 3 games and has failed to do so, even against the mighty Northwestern Wildcats, who now are a very solid 4-4 and 2-3 in the Big Ten West. So Northwestern, everyone thought was going to kind of be a doormat here in the Big Ten, and is not the case. So good on you, Cats. Maryland, get your stuff together. Michigan State falls to Minnesota 27-12 in a game that Minnesota had basically from the first half, and then a 17-point fourth quarter really put that one away. And then the aforementioned Purdue and Nebraska game. Not a whole lot to really talk about in that one. The other thing we'll briefly touch on here is Purdue's charity exhibition match against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Purdue ends up falling in that one 81-77 in overtime. It was a game that Purdue had an opportunity for a win at the end of regulation, but Arkansas hit a crazy acrobatic 3 basically at the end, and that was that. It goes to overtime. Purdue had an opportunity, but at that point, Zach Edey had barely played due to foul trouble, and Purdue just did not play well. You could tell there's a lot of rust to shake off. Purdue also played one of probably the best example of a team that gives them issues with this current roster construction. And so the fact that we were able to go into a true road game against a top 15 team and look pretty good statistically, like not even statistically, like on the scoreboard, when we statistically did not play anywhere close to our best, gives me a lot of hope, and I'm excited to see what they have in store for us here in a few days. Actually, in a few days. Purdue's first game is here in a week or so. So I know I, for one, am very, very excited. We also can touch on Purdue women's basketball. They had their exhibition today against Quincy. They ended up winning 106-45. So you can tell that Coach Katie Geralds is on this train, and it is rolling already. The season opener obviously is coming up relatively quickly, but man, a 106-45 win. Definitely not going to turn my nose down at that. I'm very, very excited to follow this team this year. And if you are not planning to, I would really highly encourage all of you to catch any games or go to any games that you have an opportunity to, because this is a program on the rise. And I, for one, am excited to see what this team is going to do. But I know we've only been going for about 11 minutes or so, but I'm starting to run out of steam. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. We'll be back here in a few days for another pre-Michigan podcast, as well as keep an eye out on the channel for my official pre-2023-24 Purdue men's basketball predictions video that I'm going to start working on here in the next few days as well. But that's going to wrap it up for me here. As always, you can find me on most social media platforms at Boiler in Texas. If you're listening to this on the audio-only version, go ahead and leave me a rating on your preferred podcast platform. And if you're interested in seeing the video version of the podcast, head over to YouTube, the same place, Boiler in Texas. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. If you're not, we're going to be ramping up the content this year, and I'm excited to get things rolling. But that's going to do it for me here in this one. I hope you all enjoyed. I appreciate you. And as always, Boiler up, hammer down, hail Purdue.